At 15,000 feet, Flight 237 hummed peacefully above the clouds, cruising on what should have been a routine trip from Denver to San Francisco. Children napped, businessmen typed away, and flight attendants pushed carts down the aisle, smiling politely. The cabin air smelled faintly of coffee and recycled calm. Then, in a blink, everything changed. A violent shudder rattled the entire aircraft. Overhead bins burst open, a baby wailed, and the captain's calm voice was suddenly replaced by static. The plane lurched left, then right, then dipped. Oxygen masks fell like wilted flowers from the ceiling. Screams erupted. In the cockpit, Captain Mark Reynolds gripped the yoke. It didn't respond. Nothing did. The dashboard lights flickered red, warnings flashed, total system failure. His voice trembled as he radioed, "Mayday. Mayday, this is Flight 237, we've lost control, no response from avionics or autopilot." Silence. He turned to his co-pilot, pale and frozen. "Manual override, now." It was no use. The plane had become a free-falling steel bird, gliding only on gravity. Back in seat 12A, 8-year-old Lily stared wide-eyed at her teddy bear, Button, nestled tightly in her arms. Her mother wrapped both arms around her, whispering, "It's okay, baby. Just keep your eyes on me." But her voice cracked. She didn't believe her own words. Lily looked around. Adults were crying. Praying. Shouting into phones that had no signal. Then, quietly, she leaned forward, her lips brushing Button's fuzzy ear. "Don't worry, Button. I'll help. We can fix this." It wasn't defiance. It wasn't fantasy. It was faith, pure and untouched. As the plane spiraled into chaos, one tiny heart stayed impossibly calm. And somehow, the sky seemed to pause, just for her. Inside the cockpit, Captain Mark Reynolds stared at the dead instruments, sweat pouring down his temples. The artificial horizon had gone dark, the autopilot was unresponsive, and the control surfaces felt limp. Years of training, decades of experience, none of it mattered now. The plane was falling, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Beside him, First Officer Jamie Chen fumbled with the emergency manual, her voice shaking. "We've lost all hydraulics, backup power's dead, nothing's responding." Her eyes brimmed with tears. "We're not going to make it, are we?" Reynolds didn't answer. He gazed at the small photo taped to the dashboard, his daughter at 6, grinning, missing a front tooth. She was 12 now. He had promised her he'd be home for her recital. Promised. He reached for the intercom. His voice, gravelly and broken, echoed through the cabin. "This is your captain, we've experienced a critical failure. I don't know if we can land safely. Please brace. And, hold on to each other." He let the microphone fall. Jamie whispered, "Should we try for the water?" He shook his head slowly. "We don't even have rudder control. We're gliding toward nowhere." Then, a soft click behind him. The cockpit door, thought to be locked, opened slowly. Reynolds turned, ready to shout, when he saw her. Barefoot. Clutching a worn teddy bear. Her cheeks flushed but dry. Calm in a room full of chaos. "Hi," she said, in a voice clearer than the sky they were falling through. "I'm Lily. I think I can help." Reynolds blinked, stunned. "You, what? How did you?" She stepped closer, unafraid. "I dreamed this. I saw it. I know what to do." It didn't make sense. But in that moment, nothing else had either. And something deep inside him, something buried and broken, began to stir. Captain Reynolds froze as Lily stepped fully into the cockpit, the door gently clicking shut behind her. The cabin still shook violently, the plane dropping feet every second, but inside this small room, it suddenly felt still. "Sweetheart, you can't be in here," he said, his voice rough but quieter now. "This is dangerous." Lily held her teddy bear tight but didn't flinch. "I know," she replied softly. "But I had a dream about this. And in my dream, I flew the plane." Reynolds turned to Jamie, who was too stunned to speak. He looked back at Lily, her eyes were steady. Clear. In a way that most grown-ups in the back of the plane hadn't managed since the drop began. "I don't understand," he muttered. "What are you saying?" Lily pointed to the control panel. It looked like this. The flashing lights. The shaking. The fear. But in the dream, it stopped when someone believed again. The pilot gave up. But I didn't. A lump caught in Reynolds' throat. He couldn't explain it, but her words pierced through the layers of dread and defeat wrapped around his heart. She reached out a small hand. "You can't give up. You just need to remember why you fly." Reynolds stared at her, really stared, and for the first time in what felt like hours, his fingers moved to the yoke. He pressed gently. "Resistance. I think I've got something," he whispered. Jamie sat up straighter. "Manual control, just a sliver." "Try the rudder trim," Lily said, pointing. Reynolds blinked. "How did she?" He followed her lead. The plane gave a slight shift, less erratic, more gliding. Still in danger. But, alive. Lily smiled. "See? We're flying now." And somehow, they were. Outside, the skies raged in silence. But inside Flight 237's cockpit, something was changing. Captain Reynolds gripped the yoke, this time not out of desperation, but purpose. His heart pounded, but he was no longer paralyzed by fear. With Lily in the co-pilot seat, legs too short to reach the floor, a strange calm had settled over them. The instruments were still failing. But the yoke responded. Barely. "Enough. Jamie," he said, voice steadier, "get me coordinates to the nearest open runway. I don't care if it's dirt." She nodded fast, fingers flying across the emergency charts. In the cabin, chaos turned to confusion. The plane, which had been in a terrifying dive, began to level slightly. It still shuddered and dipped, but it no longer felt like a plummet, more like a wounded bird trying to glide. Reynolds adjusted the trim, listening to Lily hum a soft, steady tune. It was a lullaby. He didn't know it, but somehow it steadied his breath. "Keep singing," he said, glancing at her. "Don't stop." She smiled, eyes still forward. "Okay. We're almost there. Just don't let go." As they neared the Sierra foothills, Jamie shouted, "There's a fire rescue strip, 7 miles out. It's short but doable." "Gear won't drop," Reynolds warned. "We'll slide." "We'll land," Lily said firmly. Reynolds exhaled. "Let's do this." He called the mayday again. This time, static, then a voice. "Flight 237, we hear you. You're clear for emergency landing." The cabin braced. Passengers prayed, cried, clutched hands. The ground rose fast. Too fast. Then, a violent jolt. Screeching metal. Sparks. The plane slid, twisted, groaned. And stopped. Silence. Then cheers. Sobbing. Disbelief. They were alive. And the pilot, once broken, turned to the girl beside him. "You saved us," he whispered. "No," Lily said. "We saved each other." The wrecked plane rested in a charred line across the emergency airstrip, its belly scraped raw from the gearless landing. But it stood. And every single soul on board had walked away alive. Within hours, news outlets descended. Cameras flashed. Reporters crowded the runway. "Miracle in the sky." Pilot lands doomed flight. But what no one expected was the truth that would emerge, not from the captain, but from a child. Captain Reynolds stood before the press, eyes red, voice quiet. His uniform was torn, his hands still trembling. "I've flown 22 years, he began, and I've trained for every scenario. But nothing prepared me for the moment I gave up." He paused. "I didn't land that plane alone. I was ready to quit. And then, she walked in." He turned, and the crowd followed his gaze. Lily stood beside her mother, teddy bear still in hand. She wore a firefighter's blanket like a cape, her hair tangled, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. But when people clapped, she didn't hide. "She reminded me," Reynolds continued, "that leadership isn't about control. It's about courage. Even when it comes from someone 3 feet tall with a stuffed bear named Button." Lily stepped up shyly to the mic. "I just didn't want anyone to be scared anymore," she said. "I dreamed we'd be okay. So I tried to help." A moment of stunned silence. Then a roar of applause, raw, unfiltered, human. Around the world, people watched. And something small but sacred stirred in their hearts. It wasn't just a plane that had been saved that day. It was belief. Belief in the impossible. Belief that even in our darkest falls, a single act of hope, even from a child, can change everything. And sometimes, a little girl's voice can lift an entire world.